Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, and to God be the glory, and just for another great opportunity for us to start off our day. I want to kind of, first of all, talk about this week as kind of a special week for really college football and American Football Coaches Association organization that supports college coaches. We joined in a partnership this week. You'll see really coaches all across the country wearing a patch on their sleeve there as far as representing Coach to a Cure, MD. So it's about a muscular dystrophy situation that young men have, and it's called Duchenne, which is really a diagnosis of someone that has a genetic disorder with their muscles. We have really, it's approximately about 1 out of 3,500 boys in the country that come up with this disease. And it affects all cultures, all races in this country. Just going to kind of give a little bit more explanation to it. It says, Duchenne is a progressive disease. Those living with Duchenne will need the assistance of a wheelchair in their adolescence, will lose their upper body functions in their teens, and sadly will lose their battle with Duchenne in their mid-20s. Duchenne is 100% fatal, but there are promising treatments that are going on at this point in time. And like I mentioned, really pretty much everybody here in college football will be wearing this patch, and we just want to bring awareness to everyone across the country. If you want to be able to have some type of support, a little bit of a donation, you can go to www.coachtoacuremd.org, and that will explain all the information you need to help and assist with this situation here. We're also going to have 2 young men that's going to come to our game. They're going to come to our practice on Friday. They're also going to come to our game, and we've invited them to come be a part of it. So again, we appreciate to try to go out and help the community in any way that we can, and through the game of football, there's a lot of ways that we can help people in so many different aspects of life, and this is just another aspect of it that we want to join in with. Last week's game, we had an opportunity to win. That was a positive thing. A lot of things didn't go quite as well, and there's some things that went pretty good. And we still had an opportunity to win, even with somewhere around a minute left into the football game, and had 4 turnovers. And as we all know, when you have 4 turnovers, you really shouldn't even have a chance to win a football game. But that shows how dedicated our players are, how resilient they are, how continued that they can play hard, and they continue to be very, very competitive, offense, defense, and special teams. So that's kind of what I take as some of the positives from last week's game. Also, I take some positives from a lot of young players. Have a lot of game experience now. I've played against 2 FBS opponents, 1 FCS opponent, so we've had some quality opportunities to get a lot of good experience and a lot of different looks, offense, defense, and special teams. So that's the big thing about being positive. Jacksonville State, they're another good football team that we're facing this week. They're very, very, very good in every phase. Coach Gross is an outstanding coach. He's been there now going on his 3rd year. He has a fantastic record there of, I think it's 23-4 or something like that in 2 years, and come in and really have been explosive on offense right away as he's come in here and has done a great job there as far as been able to be explosive on the offensive side. They have an outstanding quarterback there that is, I guess, just says, hey, phenomenal. Eli is going to be, I would definitely think he's going to be one of the top players in the country, offensive player of the year or whatever, because he's averaging about 340, 350 yards a game, running the ball and throwing the football there. So he is a very, very talented guy, can run, can throw, make all the throws in the pocket. He can make the throws on the run, and he can make people miss as far as his talent. And their offense is balanced. They run the ball well. They're over 200 yards running the football. They're over 200 and some odd yards throwing the football. So they're balanced. They're not just a run team. They're not just a throwing football team. That makes it even very, very tough from that standpoint. Defense, they're a 4 down front. They don't move a whole lot, but they do some pressures. And they play a lot of different coverages, and they got some big guys up front. They got some athletic guys on the edge, and they can run. That's the first thing that jumped out on the tape, that you'll see 7, 8 guys around the football just about on every single play. I guess one particular young man by the name of Darius Jackson, defensive end, has 3.5 TFLs, has 3 sacks. Number 40 comes off the edge and has great movement, great skills, can make people miss our tackles. I've seen him 2 or 3 different times where an offensive lineman just flat out don't even touch him, and he makes a hit on the quarterback. So he's very, very athletic. They have some other guys. The whole defense is very, very solid. Special teams, they're solid in that aspect too. Injury report. Chris Turner is questionable, upper body. Todd Macon is questionable, upper body. Malik Matthews is out. Will Johnson is out. Jeremy Peters is probable. Michael Henneman is out for the season due to a back injury. The keys to the game. Offense, we got to get off to a good start. I think that's very, very important for us to get off to a good start on the offensive side of the ball. Minimize, have minimum penalties, minimize the penalties. So I think that's been a crucial thing there is penalties on every aspect, offense, defense, and special teams. Our guys are playing hard. You know, every now and then you're going to have a guy playing hard and may have a penalty, but we got to reduce that. Got to tackle well. That's going to be huge on every one of their people, receivers, backs, quarterback. They can make people miss, and that's going to be crucial. We must win the special teams. That's going to be very, very crucial as far as us to win that battle. Whatever the phase is, after this ball game, we must win every phase in that area. So those are the keys. Questions?
Coach Ross was really critical of their crowd against Coastal last week. If you're talking to the fans, how pivotal can they help spur this team on Saturday?
All the fans are tremendous. They can bring energy. They bring that inner face with the players of the energy that they want and need, and to make every play, to hear that roar of the crowd. Not that they somewhat pay attention directly to the crowd as far as when you're out on the football field, but when you're on the sideline and when you're getting ready to go out to a series and through all that, it helps. So I encourage our fans, which our fans are outstanding. I know that they're going to be here and be pumped up for this one. Our student body is just the best in the country, as far as I'm concerned. FCS, FBS, it doesn't matter what it is. And I know we're going to have a great showing, and our players will be ready to play. So I know everybody's going to be here and support us.
Coach, have you decided on your starting quarterback for Saturday?
No, we're going to decide on that at the end of the week. They're going to share their reps during the practice, evaluate them there on every single snap, and then we'll make a decision at the end of the week.
With sharing reps, are you going to give them both equal on first team, equal on second team, try to see which guy has better command of the offense and what you guys want to do against Jacksonville?
We're going to get equal reps, whether it's first team or second team, throughout the week, and we'll make an evaluation. Coach Data and I sit down and look at every single snap, and we'll make a decision, you know, whether we're playing 1, playing 2, whatever. Anything could be possible, but we'll make the decision at the end.
Do you anticipate making an announcement on that before Saturday, or also, you know, how much?
I have no set plan. All I can say, end of the week. You know, if I feel good about the decision to make, then I'll make it. And if we don't feel good about it, I'll make it on game day time. So I have no set plan to be specific right now to say I'm going to make it at this time.
Is that an advantage to you guys, obviously?
I think it's an advantage. You know, anything I can do to have an advantage to help our football team be successful, then I'm going to do that.
Coach, what initially opened it up in your mind to make it, to bring in Calvert and to open this up to another quarterback competition midseason here?
Well, I think it's probably a little combination of both. When I say both, I'm saying a little bit of Stephon Marshall hasn't played up to his ability. Then that leaves an opportunity for me to make a decision. Do I give an opportunity to somebody else? Stephen Calvert, Buckshot, has been a guy who has shown that he can handle our offense, doing his practices, doing his scrimmages, and doing the little time that he's had in the games. I mean, he's not all sharp either. So, I mean, there's some things he needs to work on too. So during the process of both things, that has allowed me to make a decision to say we need to evaluate, see where we're at, and decide who is the best person to help us win as many football games as possible from an offensive point of view.
You spoke earlier that you want special teams need to win that area in order to win this game. What have you seen in the preparation throughout spring and preseasons where you worked on the fundamentals of kick return, punt return, coverages, so that way Frankie Hickson can get a deep return into plus territory? Damian King's had some big punt returns that now we're starting to see the special teams start to shift field positions.
Well, I think there's been improvement already from the return game, and I think that's in the last year or two that we've been, below par. So we've already increased in 3 football games, punt return, kickoff return. There's been some good things that have occurred. So we've already improved on it. Now we got to do it every single week. And I think the kickoff has been solid and all those things. And so I think I'm pleased with it. It's unfortunate we had the blocked field goal. We've had a few of that, and we got to get that cleaned up, and we'll work on that.
You said after the game on Saturday that the new offense is coming along a little slower than you had hoped after 3 games. Is there something you've been able to kind of put your finger on, just watching tape and evaluating things, like why that is?
I can't sit here and say there's one specific thing. If I had to say one thing that maybe could be a little bit of an issue, every single football game, going even into this game, the offensive line, there's been a change. We haven't had the same 5 people work together in one ball game at this point in time. I'm not saying that's the sole reason. That's a little bit of that. Obviously, a little bit of that's the quarterback play, a little bit of the receivers, all the continuity of everything on our offense. It just hasn't been all right. We had some success a little bit with Jacksonville, a little bit of some continuity there, and had some good things happen. But every game, though, I think the offensive line is just, again, we haven't had a consistency there. And I think, again, any offense, I don't care what you run, you got to have your offensive line to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage. We have played very, very good opponents, so I'm not going to discredit some of the people that we have played. But it's about us. It's about us continuing to get better as a football team. And so we're making small progress, but hopefully we can kick this thing into gear.
Coach, you've played such a strong schedule so far this year. Talk a little bit about how that has prepared you for this game coming up on Saturday.
Well, our players know that they can play against anybody, and we can play 4 quarters against anybody as far as the competition that we played against so far. And so we're not afraid to play people. Our guys are ready to play. They're excited about the opportunities. And so playing against very, very good competition, offensively and defense and special teams, every game, then it prepares you every week and every game to play, and no matter who you play, you feel good about where you're at and where you've been. Again, we've had a lot of young guys that are playing, and now the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th ball game, you know that some progress can be made. Now we just need to be consistency every single quarter, not just one quarter or one series.
On Provert's field goal that was blocked last week, where was the breakdown on that?
Yeah, they just ran over Aaron Campbell, Duff. 3 guys just knocked him over. He had no chance. I mean, they were in the backfield 4 yards, so it wasn't a low kick. It's just a poor protection by our front line there. So we just got to be more stout, and we'll get that all corrected.
Coach, I know it's one game on your schedule, but how significant would a victory Saturday be for this Flames team this year?
Oh, I think it's just national exposure. I still feel that we have a good football team. The record's 1-2, and that it is what it is. But I still feel we have a good football team, and so therefore playing a top-ranked team in the country in the last 3 or 4 years, they've always been in the playoffs. They've been very, very strong. It shows Liberty University, and then hopefully the Big South Conference, we're able to play well and get a win, get us great national exposure for both situations, Liberty and the Big South Conference.
You didn't have Aaron Campbell listed on the injury report. He's banged up against Jacksonville, didn't play most of the second half against SMU. He's on the second on the depth chart, 2 positions. Is he okay, and will he be ready to go Saturday?
I anticipate him, unless something else comes up here this week, but he'll be ready to go. We just decided to go another direction as far as starting-wise at this point in time.
When you watch Buckshot in the second half against SMU, his pocket awareness, I guess, just some of the intangibles of a quarterback, were you impressed with some of the things that he showed, especially for a freshman?
Yeah, he's shown some of those type of things that you saw against SMU, being a young guy and has a little bit of presence of what's going on, keeping his eyes down the field, anticipate the throws. He has a quick release. That's a big plus, and being able to get the ball, and he's pretty accurate for the most part. And every now and then he had a little bit of happy feet here and there, but for the most part, the limited time that he has, I think he's done some good things. But like I said, he still has some work to do.
Yeah, there's some change in the interior line, move Holder back to center where he started last year, Duff to right guard. Was that by necessity where you feel they're strongest at on the line?
Yeah, we just sit down and looked at it and evaluated it pretty hard. this Sunday, and so kind of looking, seeing where we're at. Then the health-wise there, and then losing Hinderman, that kind of triggered some things there right away to say, you know, what's our best five? What's our best five to be able to be as successful as possible, even though making another change in the fourth week of the game as far as having an offensive line. But we want to try this out. We think this, as we're talking about with Coach Wag, Coach Daly, and all that, this is the route we need to go. We think it's going to be the best way for us to move forward. And I'm not saying it's going to be set in stone. We'll keep on trying things and make sure that we continue to improve offensively.
Does the fact that Jacksonville State played a familiar opponent in Coastal Carolina last week help in your preparation for this week?
You know, when you look at another opponent and somebody familiarity, it's more about what we're doing defensively. Does our defense run the same defense as Coastal? There are some similarities there, so that helps. Our offense, there is a few little things, similarities, so you can kind of watch what other people do defensively from that perspective on both sides of the ball. So I guess it gives you a little bit of an idea because we, you know, have played Coastal a lot as far as their talent-wise and how they stood up against them and with them and all that. And again, Coastal had their chance to win the football game too in the game. So it does help a little bit when you have a common opponent that we're familiar with.
They get to the quarterback a lot. They blitz. They're aggressive. What have you seen from them on tape that enables them to do that? And how concerned are you with pass protection?
Oh, they get some of their better players one-on-one against your blockers from their defensive side of the ball. They match them up on certain people, and they're very athletic and they very good speed, and they can come off the edge. Some people do it. They widen their defensive ends a little more extreme than other people, and it's kind of a facade, if you want to use that word, that from an offensive tackle perspective, they may get a little bit more uptight. Guys a little bit 2 more yards wider than normal, and they get a little bit more out in space. So then as a rusher, you got more opportunities to make a little bit of a move. And some offensive linemen jump at that, and then they're quick and they're able to blow by them in that aspect. So there's a different little scheme and different technique. We got to be a lot more disciplined in our technique. Technique is going to be huge, particularly for our tackles, as they have their ends pretty wide.
If Chris Turner's unable to go with Malik Matthews out, Jeremy Peters possibly out, have you and Coach Wimberly discussed, you know, maybe coverage schemes, what you may do against their offense to try to protect some of these younger guys who don't have as much experience?
Yeah, we always have a plan. We're always going to have a plan, no matter, you know, whoever we have to make an adjustment with. We'll have a plan to give us the best way to success. So we won't be because we're not prepared. We're prepared for all situations, and injuries happen. That's part of life. That's part of football, and we'll put the next guy in, and they'll be ready to execute.
What have you got to do to limit their explosive plays? They had 7 against Coastal. I think Ross said this morning he's aiming for about 12 per game. What do you have to do to limit that? Tackle will. That's what we got to do. And they put you in places where you are going to be one-on-one. You got to make that tackle, and that's going to be a tough challenge. They do a lot of stuff where they do have opportunities to put on space. The quarterback, he's very, very good at making people miss. He's very, very elusive and very quick, and that's what it is. It's tackling well. We got to keep our eyes where we need to be, and we got to run our feet through contact, and then hopefully we got a gang of people around. But again, they do enough stuff where they do get the opportunities where they're going to be one-on-one, and you know we're not going to make every tackle, but you want to minimize that missing them.
Coach, not trying to beat a dead horse here, but with the quarterback competition, would you consider it an open competition right now between the two guys?
However you want to use the terminology or call it, so be it. We're trying to find the right people, person, I should say, as far as being able to run our offense. And at this point in time, I think it's an opportunity to open it up and really, we always evaluate them. We have never stopped evaluating them, but we need to get better production out of the quarterback position.
Coach, what kind of atmosphere do you envision Saturday night? Is this going to be maybe the wildest crowd ever for a Liberty football game?
Well, I think so. I think I think our football fans are very, very knowledgeable about college football and good opponents that are coming in. And wherever we've had that, we've had a great showing and a lot of different things going on. I know we got the Hall of Fame, the old banquet coming on this Friday, so I know we have a lot of good people coming back, alumni and friends and family members and all that. So I know our our fans will be excited about it and they're going to get us fired up. And I know we have shown that we have played very, very well at home, number one. Number two, we play very, very well against very good opponents.
I guess, Coach, in one aspect, it's got to be a big advantage to know that you guys have had success against big-time opponents that has come into Williams Stadium. That's got to be big.
Well, it's a plus, but it's still another year, another game, another week, a different situation. Yes, we're confident, and we've always confident, no matter who we playing as a staff and as our players. And so, again, we play hard, and that gives you the best chance to win when you play hard and you play more productive in everything you need to do. And so we just need to fine-tune some execution. It's been more about us. It hasn't been about the opponent, and that's why you play some games early and trying to figure out what's the best combination that you need to have to be successful. So we'll be ready to go, and they're excited, and I know our fans will be fired up and ready to go.
Just kind of follow up on that question. What has kind of been the common thread when you've had some of those big wins? You've had a number of them here at home.
I think it's been we played well early and we caused some turnovers and we've taken care of the football. I think that those have been the key things: taking care of the football. Defenses played extremely well early, and offenses played extremely well early. That's been the keys.
You know, just reviewing the film on Sunday against SMU, I'll start off with some of the positives that I was very pleased with. Our red zone production, I was very pleased with that. We was able to hold them to 9 points, and then we had 2 turnovers, and then a field goal missed. And so that's always exciting to know that when they do get down in the red zone, our guys thus far this year have shown the ability to bow up. That's our theme for the season. And so that was very positive. Also pleased with, once again, the 2 turnovers, and then we had a 4th down stop. And then I'm just very proud of the guys' effort. Our young men played real hard. And so, you know, the things that we got to continue to improve on, unfortunately, we had some explosive plays in the run game. Kind of knew that we were going to be a little lighter against the run. Our game plan was to stop Sutton. I thought we did a good job of that. That was the number one theme for us. But in the run game, it kind of hurt us. We didn't get a couple of fits that we really needed. And really, when you watch the film, all positions played a part in the 4 explosive runs that we had. 2 came from the safety position, 1 came from the corner, and 1 came from our D-line position. So, you know, at the end of the day, we still must improve on that, and we'll get that corrected. And then also the penalties were very costly for us at inopportune times. That really hurt us, kept us on the field, also gave them 15 yards, you know, and that's, you can always say that's another first down for them in itself. And so those are the things we got to improve on. Our guys had a great look in their eye on Sunday. They seemed like they were very focused, and we're ready to be back home and represent this university as we take on Jacksonville State. You know, talking about another great team that we have the opportunity to face, and thankfully we'll be able to do that at home at Williams Stadium. We're really excited about that. Coach Gross does a great job with this team, you know, top 5 FCS team. They have a great quarterback in Jenkins. He's a phenomenal athlete. We got by last week with not facing a dual threat quarterback, but, you know, the men upstairs didn't shine on us this week. Eli Jenkins is a special player from Birmingham, Alabama, and they do a great job with him. He has the ability to hurt you with his arm, hurt you with the run game scheme, and then top it up, he can scramble for a first down. So he's really a 3-dimensional athlete, in my opinion. And so we're working hard to put together a game plan that will allow us to try to contain this special athlete. Receiver-wise, they're very, very athletic. They brought in a few transfers that has allowed them to really take that receiving core to another level. Also, running back got a transfer in from Auburn. He has exceptional balance. So we're really excited about the opportunity. Like I said, Sunday I felt real good about the focus of our guys. We know that Saturday, even though we played hard, we did not take care of some of the basic responsibilities, and that is what hurt us, not anything new that SMU did. So I think we're excited about the opportunity against Jacksonville State.
How much of your game plan is going to be based on the health of the defensive backs, especially finding out if Chris Turner is going to be available, since the other two from the top four, Peters and Matthews, might not play?
I have a simple philosophy: next man up. If I start thinking about who's going to play, then I'll be all over the place when it comes to game planning. And I've been blessed to be around some mentors that have always told me, stick to what you do. You may have to be a little bit more vanilla, but you're going to still have to have the same thought process, because if you're worried about a certain individual, then you can be all over the place. And then the kids and the young men on the field, they see that. You know, they see that in the meeting room. They see that when you try to explain what you're going to put in for the week. So, you know, we're real excited. Jimmy Fox did a great job against SMU when he got in. So I'm confident that who's ever Coach Roberts we feel like we need to go with, we'll be ready to go to, you know, have our game plan at a high level.
You mentioned the explosive plays against SMU. This is a team that thrives on explosive plays. Jacksonville State, I think they had 7 against Coastal. I mean, how are they different in that term as far as SMU, and what do you have to do to slow them down?
Well, you know, like I said, against SMU, we just didn't fit gaps. It wasn't so much, you know, what they did. It's just we didn't do basic execution. You know, against Jacksonville State, it's going to really boil down to the same thing. You know, the opportunity for us to execute our defense. I feel very good that we will have an opportunity to limit some of the explosive plays that they may have. You know, if we don't execute some of the basic calls like we need to, then just what happened against SMU can very well happen against Jacksonville State. So it's going to boil down to us executing our calls.
Gross said this morning on the OVC teleconference he was not pleased with the red zone production against Coastal, that they had settled for too many field goals, they weren't getting touchdowns. Is that something you go back and watch and find out, maybe see what Coastal did and go with your strengths of, you know, what you did against SMU and holding them to field goals?
Well, you know, we definitely watch, you know, the film and watch the red zone cut up. You know, we do all those details. For me, I have a set call sheet playbook that I go by when it comes to the red zone. It's very rare that I'm a vary from that, because I know the ins and outs of it. And, you know, it's not going to be like I can call Coast and tell me the details, because we're going to be playing them later on in the season. So I really just trust the thought process that I know defensive calls that I make along with our staff. We know the ins and outs. And so if Coastal's running something that we may think is similar to what we do, then we may implement that. But outside of that, that'll be what we do, sir.
Coach, you mentioned you like the focus in your players' eyes. How big would just overall a win be? Not that they wouldn't continue that focus even past this game, no matter what happens, but how big would a win be for confidence to continue that focus so that they come in feeling like, hey, we've got a good football team here?
Well, you know, I think every preparation week, that's the focus, is try to win a game. And so I think right now with us losing, we just want to win. You know, of course, we understand that the magnitude of the game, have an opportunity to play a top 5 FCS team, a very well-coached team, you know. So I would say for our guys, it's just about getting a win. We didn't get a win last week. I think we really felt like defensively we let some opportunities slip away to where we could have won this past game. And so I think the focus is more about, Coach, we didn't do the little things. And for 2 weeks, we really took care of the little things. And so I think they're more focused about, you know what, I need to get back to making sure my eyes are disciplined, making sure I play with the proper leverage. And so we take care of those things, we'll get a win.
Go back to the red zone. What did they struggle with primarily in the red zone that you've seen from them?
As far as
just the way that they were running their offense, like
Jacksonville State.
Yes.
You know, I'll be honest, I haven't gotten too far into that. We're still focusing on first and second down. And so, like I said, we're taking baby steps this week to make sure we cover our details. Probably tonight and tomorrow, we'll get more in detail on the red zone as a specific cut-up to really see maybe what Coastal was able to do to frustrate them a little bit.
Call you Thursday.
Thank you.
Facing a Jacksonville State offense, how does that compare to facing a Virginia Tech or an SMU offense?
Well, watching film, I'm trying to tell you, it ain't no difference. in my humble opinion, they execute very well. You can see that their young men play with a lot of swagger and confidence. They believe in what they do. You don't see a lot of mistakes, false starts, or just careless penalties. So they really don't beat themselves. Their O-line has very nice size. They're very physical. They come off the ball. They play with confidence. And so, when you mention those other two teams, I will put Jacksonville State right along with SMU and Virginia Tech. And like I said, we're just excited for the opportunity because at the end of the day, I always tell the young men, it's not about our opponent. It's about us executing. And if we can execute, we can keep ourselves in games. And I think the football intelligence in our unit right now, we can find ways to make plays.
You mentioned Jenkins being a dual-threat quarterback. What's the key for you this week to containing him and not allowing him to use his feet to create plays?
Well, it's going to really boil down to our young men, once again, executing the calls that we have in place. Coach Singletary has done a great job with the initial implementation of what he feels we're going to need to do to contain Eli Jenkins. And it's going to boil down to young men's eyes. A lot of times, you watch film of contain being broken by a quarterback. A lot of times it deals with our front seven or your front seven getting a little greedy because they may see the quarterback going one way, and instead of keeping that leverage, they just take off running. And then when you're facing an athletic quarterback like Eli Jenkins, then he crossed back the whole field, and you don't have your proper leverage. So that's what it's going to boil down to. Once again, it's us executing our calls, and we know that he's a very special athlete. He may get a few opportunities to have some big plays. We just got to do a great job of limiting that.
Similar type question, when facing or dual threat type quarterback, some defenses have used a spy to kind of shadow the quarterback. Is that something you believe in and might try to do this weekend?
Wow. You're right. You gotta have a game plan when you're facing a special quarterback like Eli Jenkins. We got some things up our sleeve, and every defense would do that against Eli Jenkins. So I'm not going to make it seem like we were trying to reinvent the wheel. I just believe that I got to get my guys to execute at a high level. And so for me, it's going to boil down to how much can our guys maintain to play at a high level, because sometimes you're not careful, you'll have them, just because you're trying to implement something for a certain game, they're playing a little slower, and you're still not getting the results that you want because now they're thinking about the call. Hey, Coach, did the sideline give me that signal? Coach, I thought I saw this. I thought I saw that. And so for us, it's going to be – I feel real confident that our D-line has very good football IQ. They know their gaps even when we do different stunts and spies. So, yeah, all that's going to be a part of it. So I'm giving my secret away a little bit.
Coach Gill talked about getting off to a good start. That's kind of been a common thread when you guys have had success at home. What do you have any goals for your defense first couple of series, or how important is that?
Well, for me, it's going to boil down to executing. Just after seeing SMU, I know that's been a theme thus far in this press conference. It's just we got to get back to that, because if we do that, I believe we'll be able to find ways to make some plays early in the game and set the tone. Against SMU, we did not do that. We had two opportunities to get off the field on third down. We didn't execute. It wasn't nothing that they did. We just didn't execute, and then that extended drives, and then we had a mental error by a safety when it came to fitting the run, and it led to a touchdown. So that's what my theme this week. We got to get back to executing so we can get off the field.
You've used a lot of press coverages this year. Due to all the injuries at corner, do you anticipate still using that going forward?
Like I said, I have the utmost confidence in Coach Roberts and the technique, as I explained in previous press conferences. The work that he's done with our corners over the summer and in camp has been phenomenal. And so I really don't foresee us, deviating. Our guys believe in the technique. They do it at a high level. Jimmy Faulks came in against SMU, and we really didn't have any drop-off. I didn't even realize he was out there that many snaps until I found out on Sunday. So, once again, that's a credit to Coach Marshall Roberts. The game plan is we're going to do what we need to do to allow ourselves to be successful. And if that allows us the opportunity to press and get after it, that's what we're going to do.
I thought our guys fought really, really hard throughout the entire game. I think we started pretty fast.
we kind of slowed down the second and third series, didn't really get the momentum, to continue as we went along. And so we had to, kind of change the ebb and flow of it a little bit. We threw Buckshot in early just to see what kind of rhythm we can get him into. And he did a pretty good job with that first series that he got in there. And so coming back in the second half, we said, you know what, let Stephon go, make a couple plays, and we'll go from there. And we kind of got in a situation where we didn't have the flow and rhythm we needed, so we felt like we needed to change it up, and we brought Buck back in because we felt like he had some success with his first series, and he came in and did a really, really good job against, quality defense. So overall, I was happy with, the production that he had, made a couple mistakes here and there, but he did a really good job handling himself on the road in a hostile environment.
What do you want to see out of the two this week as they battle for the starting job Saturday?
Really just the consistency. In order to play quarterback at the highest level, you got to be efficient, and the only way you can be efficient is if you're consistent. And you got to understand the timing, the rhythm, and the thought process behind each play. And so in practice, you're going to get anywhere between 120 reps each day, mentally and physically. And in the game, you only get about 77, about 85. And so with that being said, being able to reproduce the thoughts, needed on game day throughout the week, who does that most consistently will have an opportunity to be the starter.
Do you feel like you've been able to use Stephon as a runner as much as you'd like to in the first 3 games?
Yeah, you don't want to call too many plays in which you expose your quarterback to shots. And we've been really good about that in years past, during our time here, is not really exposing our quarterback and leaving him vulnerable. And so, the quarterback run game that we've been able to execute while here this season have been things where everyone's got a hat for a hat, and he's able to be in a one-on-one situation. We talk about as a ball carrier, whether you're a quarterback, running back, wide out, tight end, fullback, at some point you have to make one miss. Sometimes it's sooner than later. And so we like to call plays in which, everyone's accounted for, and if you got to make somebody miss, it's further down the line.
Coach, typically at this time of year, you're hoping that you've got a starter set in place and that you're moving forward and starting to gel together. Is this something you're not exactly thrilled about, having to open up the competition again, or is it just an opportunity that maybe you guys didn't think of before that could get you guys further along?
Well, you always want to go in there with the thought process that there's one guy and you have a quality backup. The fortunate part for us is we've been preparing, for a situation, whatever it may be, whether there's an injury or we're not getting what we want performance-wise from a guy. So we've put ourselves we feel like in a good situation to where we've got 2 guys that have played a bunch of football in 3 football games. With that being said, there's comfort to that. Do you want a guy to be, solidified? Obviously, yes, sir. But at the same time, we feel like we got 2 really good quarterbacks. Guys have done pretty good, relatively speaking, played against 2 really, really good, FBS opponents. So with that being said, the experience that those 2 guys have gotten this season that put us in a pretty good position.
Joe, take us back to the recruiting of Buckshot. When did you first hear about him? What's the story? And we talked earlier about how much harder as bigger schools started to learn about him that we had to work to get his commitment. So give us a story.
Well, it started well before that 2016 class in the sense that we knew we were going to take a guy, possibly 2, and so we tried to scour early on as many guys we can get our eyes on. And I think we went through about 350 guys before we ever went on the road, and we identified about 120 that we felt like, hey, these guys can, definitely play some football here. They can spin the rock, and we just need to do a little bit more research. And so when it came time to go on the road recruiting that spring, we narrowed the list about 35 guys that we could feasibly see within that spring recruiting season. And so I want to say Buckshot was part of the top 10 that we felt like, this guy's got a shot. Let's go do our background or research information, get it so that when we come back off the road, we either going to say yes or we're going to say no. And he was a young man that on tape you could see he had a very strong arm. And you can also tell that he's playing against some quality football down there. He's playing against speed that we're going to see every single day on game day. And so you felt good about, knowing the kids played a good brand of ball. And so I went down there following Coach Wimberly. He went and did an academic eval, and then I went down to watch him perform in a spring game. And by far, he had the strongest arm of any kid I had seen, in my 2 weeks on the road, specifically in Florida. And I went and saw, I want to say, probably anywhere between 20 and 25 guys in those 2 weeks on the road that I had in Florida. I saw that many QBs. By far, he had the strongest arm. And there's some guys that were going to some pretty, established organizations, and he was very, very impressive. And so from there, we came back and said, hey, Coach, this is the guy. We feel really good about him. In addition to, we had signed, or we were actively recruiting Rudd as well. And so, Coach Gill wanted to see him in person, and so we got a chance to get him up here in that summer camp, and he, lights out from the very first throw to the very end. I think it took one warm-up throw before Coach Gill was like, yeah, he can spin it, and he concluded his camp with a deep throw on a go route from the opposite hash, hit the guy in stride, and everyone was sold, in the organization from then on out. So from there, it was just about, courting him and showing him that we're going to give him an opportunity to play a really good brand of football, and he's going to, have an opportunity to play, 3-4 years, as a starter. So, the rest is history, really.
Cool. Do you feel like that there's kind of a reluctancy kind of just collectively in college football everywhere to play true freshmen at that quarterback position?
Yeah, and the main reason being is, as a young quarterback, it's very, very difficult in order to process all the things that go on as a young quarterback. There's things that are off the field related that you have to constantly deal with: attention, the academic aspect of it, the social aspect of it. Then you have within the actual preparation for a game, the mental and physical things that are involved in playing a position, the things that you have to adjust in the game plan within each play. You got to see subtle things. That's the difference between a completion or a sack. And so to throw that on a young man very early is difficult, and very few guys can really handle that. For us, having him get here early this summer was a great opportunity for us, to just teach him just the basics, of playing the position, just the base fundamentals and techniques, and allow him just to process and digest that aspect of it before we ever threw anything else, on his plate. So he's done a good job of handling that. I can't speak for everyone in college football in the sense of how they do it, but I feel like, we do a pretty good job at least getting those guys introduced to just, the basic fundamental techniques of playing the position.
Coach, has Buckshot's progress surprised you, and what's maybe one area where you feel like he needs to take that next step?
Well, the progress, hasn't surprised me. I know he's a very, talented young man, very intelligent young man. He's played a lot of good football in South Florida, and so, for him, because he's a gunslinger, he loves to throw the football. There aren't very many throws he can't make, to be honest with you. So with that being said, you kind of got to wheel him back a little bit, just because he'll cut it loose. If he sees it, 45 yards down the field on the opposite side, he'll try to cut it loose. So you kind of got to, reel him in and try to, trim the fat, so to speak. Let him know what you can and can't do as a quarterback, and understand the timing and rhythm involved in each play. We try not to freelance a lot. We're not like most of those spread teams where the quarterback just run around and scramble. We don't believe in that, because that's how, all types of nonsense happens. We feel like if you do things, in time and rhythm, with organization and spacing, you can have a lot of success. And with the guy that we had here in years past, he was very similar. Early on, he wanted to make every throw, and we had to wheel him back a little bit, and bit by bit he got better. And so with him, really, it's just keeping him in a certain framework so that he can be successful.
Talking about Jacksonville State defensively, they get after the quarterback, obviously. I mean, what do you guys have to do as far as pass protection to give yourself a good chance?
Well, like I've said in weeks past, each game's going to come down to individual matchups. There's always a one-on-one matchup that you have to win. For us, they got two phenomenal guys on the edge that really come after you. They play an attack style, defense, specifically with those defensive ends. So you got to account for those guys. There's no doubt about it. But at some point, our tackles and guards and backs are going to be one-on-one with those guys, and they got to do a really good job of staying in front of them. We get a hat on a hat, we'll feel good about what we can get accomplished in the run and pass game.